info session on the concentrations. So we're excited. We've got professors, we've got alumni, and we've got students from multiple programs here to hear about the different concentrations that we have. And so I'm excited because some of you may not know this, but we have brought the Masters of Organizational Leadership program into the School of Business at Point Loma. And so we're excited with that program to, one, when MBA students are taking the org leadership concentration classes, they'll obviously be in classes with org leadership students, but the org leadership master students are also now invited to optionally earn the project management or innovation and entrepreneurship concentration. So you'll be in classes with MBA and MAOL students for the concentration classes. So we're excited about that. And then I also know we have some daytimer students here. So the daytime students also have the option of adding on one of the concentrations. So what we'll do is each professor is going to have a short presentation. If we have some alumni from those concentration areas, we're going to invite them to say a few words, and then also some time for Q&A maybe in that 15-minute slot. And if not, we have 15 minutes at the end of all three presentations for Q&A at the end. So welcome everybody. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Randall Schober and Frank Marshall and to talk about the innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's morning here in Australia, hence my kangaroo koala symbolism here in the background. And looking at the back of the bush here, I've got some Nutri-Grain, which is the classic Australian cereal, some violet crumbles for my morning breakfast, and some eucalyptus that fell off the top here. So if it gets noisy here, I'll turn my mute off. But welcome everybody. Oh, Reed's here too. Excellent. Good to see you also. All right, so let's get started here. Frank Marshall and myself teach the concentration on innovation entrepreneurship. I'm going to share my screen here for a second and just kind of walk you through a real quick description of our concentration here. And Frank, of course, will be adding. I teach the entrepreneurial part of it right now, and Frank teaches the innovation component. So I'll allow him to speak on that when I get to that. So here we go. It's winter here, so it's a little chilly here outside. But entrepreneurship, ultimately, what we do here, obviously, the whole idea. They're parrots, parakeets. Maybe I need to walk inside. Let's throw a rock at them. So we basically do design thinking in entrepreneurship, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and obviously then test. This comes out of Stanford, really powerful model that we do here. Ultimately, in the entrepreneurship part of it, we basically get you from taking an idea into a business idea and model. I'm literally going to throw some violet crumble at him. You should see them, they're beautiful though. And this may not work. Is it really loud? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. It's
okay.
Just a little background noise. It's not
background. Yeah, they're beautiful colored parakeets. They're very loud. So what we believe in Point Loma, obviously, God has given us gifts to use, and we ultimately be good servants of those various gifts. And I think entrepreneurship and innovation is a phenomenal way of doing so. So in entrepreneurship, we basically, I look at this as my definition, the process of creating value by leveraging resources to exploit an opportunity. And that's what entrepreneurship is about, and what innovation is about. It's about creating value by leveraging what we have regarding an opportunity. And opportunity is typically a problem that we're trying to solve. Entrepreneurial mindset is about opening your mind, not being closed, but being open to providing opportunities to think outside the box, to think out of what we typically would be doing. And therefore, it's kind of a way in which you need to do this in all business aspects. So we talk about that. We speak about what creates entrepreneurship and what type of skill sets are required to do so in that environment. In my class, I teach on entrepreneurship, which basically speaks to how you actually build innovation within a business, and you actually innovate within a corporate environment. It's entrepreneurship. And of course, now I'll hand over to Frank so he can actually address the innovation part of it.
All right, Randall, thank you. Hey, are you going to advance the slides for me too? Yeah. So innovation. So I teach an applied innovation class. And what we know about innovation is that we need to figure out how to cross the chasm, right? So when we when we innovate, we think about what's happening on the very front end, what's happening on the first, 2.5% of people will go ahead and adopt, right away. And what we have to do is we have to figure out how to get past the 2.5% to the 15%. And so what we do in my innovation class is it's broken up into 3 different sections, and we do actual challenges. So, so the first part of the class, we do some things where we look at. Last year, we did a challenge for an ag biodiversity campaign in Europe. Top 11 teams got to go to Rome, and we were not in the top 11, but we were there were over 2,000 entries, and we were in the top 200. And so we would be, so that's part of the class. The second part of the class is another challenge where we look at, in the past, we've worked with the city of San Diego and tried to understand how to do things differently. Last year, we looked at transportation issues within San Diego and how we could do things a little bit differently. And then the last challenge is taking the existing product and figuring out how can we adapt that product to something completely different. And so we go through a lot of different ideas. And one of the things that we do is we look at Nest. Nest is a thermostat that was created, and it has a lot of learning built into it, but it looks like a very old thermostat. And so we're thinking through, what is it we have to accomplish, and trying to understand how do we create a different product. Because really, Randall's teaching classes, his class is about exploiting opportunities, and innovation is about how do we make things different? How do we improve things? Simply, innovation could be as simple as I'm changing an algorithm in my work in order to produce reports faster, or to create a process that allows us to speed up our process that you'll hear from Matt Bone later. And so that's what innovation, that's what my class is about. Back to Randall.
Thanks, Frank. Obviously, we're trying to be innovative here by being outside. And sometimes innovation doesn't work. Sometimes you try it and it gets too noisy and you have to move on. So I just want to finish up before we head over to Wendy and Reese, who is with us today. I take this the innovation diffusion curve that Frank talked about earlier, which pretty much the chasm, the tipping point in which you actually have to take a product or an idea and jump over that chasm to get the early majority and get it actually implemented within a marketplace. So that's kind of what he was referring to yesterday. Yesterday. It is yesterday, tomorrow here. This is the kind of the process that I use in the entrepreneurship program. We look customers, we look at value propositions and competition, business models, marketing, markets, and how it fits in the marketplace. That's kind of where your minimal viable product comes in. And then at the very end, we look at finances and funding. And Frank and I work pretty closely together. As you see here on the sides here, the hypothesis of validation innovation is constant throughout any type of entrepreneurial venture. And what we believe ultimately in the end that we are all at risk. The risk person is a person who's not prepared for entrepreneurial age, which we're in. We are looking at that now as a means to know that entrepreneurship is the way in which people are building companies, and it's so easy. It's a level playing field that everybody, we all have the same access, the same resources to build something. So we love that. And I think we've actually had a couple of people within our organization, Wendy being one of them, and Reese obviously also has applied this as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Wendy and Reese here to give us kind of their thoughts around the entrepreneurial concentration and the importance of it. So open it up, maybe Wendy first, and then Reese, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you so much, Randall. And Frank, that was awesome. To give you a little background, I'm an alumni twice of Point Loma Nazarene, a 1998 athletic training, and then as part of our second cohort for the MBA program, and graduated 2008 with the MBA. So that was, as far as my schooling, I feel like it's helped me to do what I do. I currently am head of talent acquisition for Q Health. And at Q Health, we saw a lot of entrepreneurialism and also innovation. So when I joined Q Health almost 4 years ago, I was in place 78. We were a startup. We really didn't have any money. We had to use everything like that didn't cost money. So innovation, we use Google Sheets. So I don't know if you've ever applied to a company or gone through an ATS. I created an ATS out of Google Sheets. Was it automated? Nope, but that's the money that we had. It was a whole company of doing Google Sheets. We created an ERP through Google Sheets, and not just me, but everybody in the company was super innovative. Fast forward 2 years, we've actually gone from 97 employees end of May 2020 to over 1,700. And on gone public, we actually went to market with our first test, COVID. And innovation is actually, we have 20 other plus assays that we're working on for our next steps, for Q Health being a health company opposed to just a COVID diagnostic company. So it's just been an incredible ride. And I will say that my MBA in education that I received at Point Loma definitely gave me that foundation to be able to evolve very quickly and really understand what is needed, or even what I could do, or even, help prepare me as far as business, because I had an athletic training undergrad, so it was nothing to do with business. So I would say it's super valuable, and I'm excited to be able to tell you about it. So that's really kind of in a nutshell what I've been up to. How about you, Reed?
Hey, thanks everybody. Welcome tonight. Reed Colt is class of 2016 for the MBA evening program, and I was the first cohort that actually got to go through Randall's entrepreneurship class, and part of the first group that actually was in that emphasis. And for me, it's helped me drastically just from the entrepreneurial perspective that Randall was talking about when I was with Cubic Defense Aerospace and Transportation Company for 10 years, and it trying to transform the way that we did business as we went through acquisitions and bought new companies and changed the face of our business. That was probably the most helpful for me in my career, as well as helping other people in my career other people who are close to me who want to start small businesses and have helped them build business plans and other things from those skill sets that I took away from Randall's program. So I think that's probably all the time I have, but it was really great throughout my career and as I worked full time and did the evening program.
Thanks, Reed. Thanks, Wendy. Yeah, phenomenal. Thanks for your feedback. Jamie, over to you, I'm assuming.
Yeah, we have time. If we have time for one question, if there's anybody with a question. Oh, no, we don't. We just ran out of time. So save that question till the end and we'll circle back for those. So I'm going to turn it over to Randy Wainick for org leadership. And then Randy, we have two alums. So Ryan Spear is online with us and Juliana is here in the classroom. I'm actually going to have her come sit here to take this spot to share her words at the end.
I apologize. I moved the screens around and I was trying to hit the mute button and hit the wrong one. Hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you taking the time out. I guess one of the things I would like just to start off with, whether it's you're going innovation or entrepreneurship or project management or organizational leadership, they all sort of apply. They all carry super big value to you and to the corporations, the organizations that you represent. It's really sort of what drives, what is the most interest to you. I'll kind of run over in a very brief order, sort of the organizational leadership and give you some insight into that. And why I think it's actually a very profitable from the standpoint of contribution, enrichment to the company, enrichment to the individual, as far as a concentration or a career choice. So we'll start off with, why? Very simply, the first question, probably what when you thought about going back to get your MBA is, like, why? Well, right now, the opportunity, the need, or the sort of value of somebody with a leadership or organizational leadership sort of focus is because everything is changing so dramatically, so radically over certainly the last several decades. But when you look at over the last couple of years, there's been so much dynamic change in the environment, in the economy, in social unrest, whatever it might be. That is actually started to magnify the importance of having somebody that has insight, understanding to leadership. I think there's certainly been a shift in the world and in the workforce today towards what is work and what is leadership. You're getting things like the Great Resignation and how do companies sort of deal with remote work, and how do they communicate? How do they think about the message? How do they think about motivating? How do they think about accomplishing the objectives of the business in this new sort of economy, this new sort of environment? And very much front and center of that discussion that will basically blanket every division, every function in a company is this idea of leadership. And I think this concentration helps enable and prepare you to think holistically, to think across sort of the entire organization as to what levers need to be pulled, why do people respond a certain way, and that's sort of the insight you'll get in this concentration. And what I would say is it applies to every organization, every business, for-profit, nonprofit, companies in Australia, companies in San Diego. It's so universal because it deals with predominantly really trying to understand the person and then sort of a clear articulation of what is our objective, what are we here for. That's the role of leadership. That's why studying leadership is such a valuable asset to recruiters, to companies looking for, people that will plug in. It's not just about necessarily what does your degree or your credentials or the school you went to say. It's really about what's the propensity, what's the appetite, what's the likelihood of this person having a full understanding that can contribute no matter what. So I think those are some of the whys that you would study when you would think about organizational leadership. And you get down to it, this is sort of echoed through the popular press. If that's a barometer or an indicator, you look at it, all the articles, a brief search will kind of come back with more information than you really want to know. But leadership mindset for the new economy. We are going into a new economy based upon a whole host of factors. And I believe it's at a very sort of a heightened level that's probably more acute than it has been in decades and decades. So leadership is important for that. Obviously the pandemic is going to have a big impact on the way companies lead, the way companies retain, the way companies train, the way companies communicate, compensation systems, but it's all changing. It'll change also from the structure of companies. And then, going forward, business leaders have to create the change needed to end racism, the social aspect that is so strong right now, that sort of is entangled with whether it's the government or global economy, globalization, it's front and center. Organizational leadership is really sort of the best plug-in for something like that. And it's not, you're just going to learn all sort of like soft skills and, make sure you listen to the employees. You're going to actually learn theory, sound sort of concepts that will give you this idea where you can actually tactically deploy some of these ideas, but strategically shift an organization, shift performance. And that really will matter. Higher engagement, higher retention, more innovation are all directly linked to this understanding and the execution of good leadership. So, how do we do it? It's basically we go through current and relevant material. There's no shortage of real world, real-time case studies going on right now. One of the things that I'm using a lot now is this whole sort of, certainly the economy, but actually looking back at it, the Russia-Ukraine situation. There is untold thousands of things that we can discuss about how is that going towards leadership? How does that apply to business? How does that apply to economies? We use some incredible videos that dive deeper into specific subjects and really sort of uncover some of the hidden elements of leadership. Contemporary case studies, as I mentioned, Ukraine and Russia, the economy in the US, the political unrest, social unrest, all of those things are real time. They're application based sort of examples of leadership. And then, quite honestly, so much of why this topic is so interesting is that it turns back to you. What's been your experience? And we have lots of group discussions in pretty much all the classes to look at different perspectives, look at different ideas. And that is actually, that fosters leadership. It sort of instills confidence to have a, sort of critical thinking, sort of inquiring type of a mind. And that will help as you become a leader. So that's kind of how we do it. That kind of rolls out into these specific topics that we talk about every week over the course of the course. We hit on these topics that are really major impacts to the discussion of leadership. And then the way we do it is, really by all the case studies, the discussions, but that directly plugs into the curriculum, the design of the courses, whether it's organizational behavior or leadership application in theory. So that's sort of the big overview. What I want to tell you is it's not just sort of like it's super interesting, but it's very, very much focused on the applied. It's not just about, having an understanding or an awareness. It's about what are you going to do with this information, these ideas, these theories, these concepts, your commitment or your view on any aspect of leadership. So we have a couple of questions. I believe we have Ryan and Juliana. Ryan, if you want to kick it off, sort of give your view, your insight.
Sure, thanks, Randy. So yeah, I graduated here just a few years ago, it seems. It's gone really quick. The leadership program was actually one of the main cornerstones of why I took the PLNU program holistically. I mean, when you go through it, you're going to get a wealth of knowledge, as Randy and Randall were articulating, and everything you learn in any vocation, you're going to use everywhere else. And it was particularly relevant for what I do right now because I was just stepping into a leadership role. And I came before the PLNU program with a very quantitative background, but I didn't have as many qualitative skill sets. And I also didn't have, I'll say, the highest emotional intelligence possible going into the program, but I definitely came out with it. So I would strongly encourage, with a sincere bias, to explore the leadership role if you're burgeoning or emerging into a position of influence where you're overseeing large initiatives or you have a large impact role at your enterprise. The wealth of knowledge you're going to take away is going to be amazing, and the skill sets you'll take with it, you can apply anywhere. You don't have to just apply it in leadership. You can apply it in entrepreneurship or any of the other groups. So I speak with a slight bias with that, but it was definitely a great takeaway, and I would encourage everyone to explore it. So I think I'll throw it over to Miss Juliana with that.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, you're good.
Hi, everyone. Juliana here. I am.
Sorry, I'll fix it.
Oh, it's okay. You're all here. And yeah, super excited to be here and also share a little bit of, one of the multiple reasons why I was very pleased with this program. Graduated in 2019 and been working as an HR manager for over the past 15 years, right? And then working in HR for that long, I thought, whoa, I know about, organizational leadership and organizational behavior until I started the program and realized that there was so much more to learn, especially when you're doing an MBA that prepares you to not just be a leader, but also to give a perspective in many aspects of the business. So I think that's like one of the things that I really enjoyed about this program is that, okay, I was like in my HR world, and not really understanding just kind of like the whole influence that other departments or the organizational as a whole they have on my department, right? So the MBA gave me that, but then the organizational leadership, it just kind of strengthened my confidence. And really, after I graduated this program, I was promoted within I think it's like a little bit less than 6 months. I was promoted for an HR manager position. It gave me confidence. It gave me also the intellectual conversations that I've been having, just like having as you're in the MBA, you feel that like your mind becomes like so sharp that you're like always sharing new information. The teachers, I cannot say great things enough about Randy and Frank. They're like one of my favorite teachers. And for sure, like they keep us always like up-to-date information. So you feel so prepared to literally everything that I learned at night, I will apply on my next day work environment. So that was definitely one of the biggest things that I take on from this. Just of course having an MBA after your name, which is pretty cool. Also wanted to take this opportunity to invite you all. Jimmy share with you guys a link. We have a Zoom presentation if you're interested about salary negotiation. So after working, with this for a while, and I will want to share if you guys are interested in having more information, talk about Great Resignation, Randy, and and how we can navigate through that environment. So I would love to see you all in there.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right. So
Julia.
I think to keep it fair, we'll just go jump into the next one and hold all the questions until the end. That seems like the best way to do it. So if you want to stop sharing, Randy, then we can turn it over to Matt. And Matt has Darnell and Jennifer, our alums here.
Darnell, Jennifer, hope you're well. Let's see, I'm Matt. I've been teaching in this concentration since 2015 when we first started it. And interestingly enough, the world's come alive with project management during COVID, particularly because the major drug rollouts from Pfizer and Moderna were both managed as projects. And so we're using those as case studies about how companies can get more work done much faster rate. Hope the screen's going through okay. Is the screen going through? Okay, cool. So intention for the program. It's values-based. We took Fermanian values and we said, how do we build a project manager using Fermanian values? Passion for excellence, professionalism, those sorts of elements of integrity that build credibility for the project manager. So it's grounded in our Fermanian values, but the intention is for PMs to build and lead great teams. The world sort of morphed into two major, I'll say, competing types of project management right now. About 70% of the Fortune 500 is moved towards what's called the agile method, small, self-managed, networked teams. The other 30% of the Fortune 500 are using an older school method called the waterfall method, which is traditional linear management. But what's being discovered is that we need these rapidly adjusting teams during COVID and post-COVID in order to rapidly adapt to our non-linear world. And you can only do that through teams of teams. The idea is to ground everything we're doing in both our classes for the concentration in professional body of knowledge. So one class is drawn from a project management institute called the Project Management Professional Body of Knowledge. And the other is drawn from the Scrum organization, Scrum being a type of agile project management. So everything we learn in both of our classes for the concentration can connect back to a body of knowledge that the professionals use. And that professional body of knowledge is updated every couple of years for both organizations. When, just to be sure that we're still current in the local area, since most of our students are going to go on and be employed in San Diego employers, every year we go out and do a pulse of the profession. And we've got plenty of alums serving in project management positions, whether it's small firms or General Atomics, what have you. And we can go out and ask questions about, hey, what are you looking for in recent grads? What kind of software knowledge do you need? What kind of process methodology do you need? And that connects back to the body of knowledge pretty nicely. So our syllabi are constantly updated. Some terms you'll hear: Scrum Master is a servant leader for a agile team, and a product owner owns the product and represents the customer. So not to get too jargony on you for right now, but both our classes, and I'll talk about those in just a second, but both commit to get you ready to go. We can't certify you because Point Loma is not a certifiable, no university is, it's the professional organizations that do the certification. So the first one is rugby and Scrum. And the big quote is, "We, not me." Why rugby Scrum? Well, back in the 80s, when people were looking at managing products and new product development and new product rollout, they realized that the teams that were most effective tended to work down the field together. much as a rugby scrum does. So they said, hey, let's change our project management focus from a relay race, one party handing over a product or a deliverable to the next party, to a scrum where the team works together through the entire product development, project management lifecycle and hands it over. Well, even if you said, well, I really don't care about project management, what we learn, the Agile philosophy and this Scrum framework of rugby is a great way to build teams. It's a process to build high-performing teams because it's a focus on servant leadership by all parties and also a focus on continuous organizational learning. And it's wrapped up in the term velocity, fastest learner wins. So speed with direction. So it's a process to build the teams that's really powerful. It has to do with the flow of meetings, and it has to do with the particular documents and deliverables that you turn out, all of which are focused on turning back into the team to say, did we get smarter today? Are we faster today? And what research is uncovering as more and more organizations are moving towards an agile philosophy, self-managed work teams, embedding the customer in the process within the Scrum framework, is the numbers are pretty realistic, pretty startling. Companies using Scrum are 400% more productive than they were before. That means they're less waste, more value for the customer, fewer turnbacks when the customer doesn't want it. And it comes up because they have the same folks working together, 6, 9 people, the old 2 pizza rule, but they're continuously generating value for customers. And every 2 weeks, they're giving the customer something, saying, hey, how does this look to you? Is it getting there? And what they're discovering is they get twice the work done, half the time, half the number of people. So they're 400% as productive as they were before, where they need before 20, 25 folks on a product team or a project team. Now that they're getting away 6 to 9 folks, where it used to be 3 months, now they're doing it in a month. And the information's coming from this organization that's on the slide called Gartner. They're the big Agile and Scrum research tracking agency. There's some new ones coming out we've embedded in the syllabus. One is a Japanese term, which means Kanban system. And as we get more technologically brilliant, we realize that technology tends to be our enemy when we're building teams. And Kanban in Japan means card. So instead of managing projects with a whole bunch of software, we now manage with little yellow stickies on a whiteboard. Scrumban is a combination of Kanban and the Agile philosophy. And we also have a good chunk of our classes devoted towards negotiation and conflict resolution. This is usually held in the spring, and the focus is on teams and communications. And everything we do, primarily through case study method, is seeing how ethics and our Fermanian values play out in building really, really strong teams and team dynamics. In the spring and then in the fall, this is, I'll call, it's not necessarily true to say this, but this is a more linear thinking, traditional project management methodology. Business 6068 is called risk monitoring and control, and the majority of the effort is placed into risk management, enterprise risk management, using a model from a company called Reich, which is a project management software company, but they've developed their own risk management method and basically written a book about it. And it has to do with risk monitoring and control, and throughout the entire enterprise, identifying what could happen, how we're going to come up with contingency plans, and working through the risk management cycle. Because of risk management, we end up with higher quality, better human resource management because we have teams involved, systems for communication, and then primarily for cost management, we use something used to be only aerospace, DoD specific, and now it's pretty much branched out into every industry because it's so linked to analytics. It's an idea called earned value project management, and project analytics goes in for both descriptive and predictive. So you get a chunk of analytics, a couple weeks of analytics built into our fall class, Business 6068. Since the university has now picked up Microsoft Project, you'll become you'll become very comfortable using Microsoft Project, and the newer versions are much more user-friendly than the old ones. This one is focused on the management of the teams, the management of the work so the teams can excel. And it lines you up pretty nicely for a Project Management Institute certification because everything we do comes right out of this area. Good news from a textbook front is we can use sections of 3 textbooks to keep the cost down for both the classes. So we'll use the same textbooks for both classes. You buy them once, you can use them, and then they're pretty consistent. They're pretty world-class texts, and they're filled with case studies. So it's easy to embed them into the class for the case study method. Now, our knowledge differentiators, if you said, hey, what makes your project management program different than, say, USD's or San Diego State's? And you said, hey, why would I want to take your 2 classes instead of going somewhere else? Good projects question assumptions. So the source on the left comes from a guy named Terry Schmidt, and he's the expert in this concept called the logical framework approach and the logical framework matrix, because risk lies in the assumptions. So we're going to embed the logical framework matrix into both the classes because we question the assumptions to manage the risk. And the new one, I call it agile getting even more agile, when agile is not fast enough for agile, particularly in the world of analytics, and it's called one-page project management. Both of which, if they're in any syllabus in Southern California, I can't find them. And so ours is, this would be your knowledge differentiator, logical framework approach and one-page project management. Both of these sources are available through our library, so you don't have to buy anything. And I just embed them in the class with readings and practice sessions within the class, both the classes. So wrap up, build teams, manage risk, primarily case study method, a lot of teamwork in the classes since project management's a team sport. Focus on risk management, BOS 6068, using control methods like earned value and analytics. Team build in BOS 6067, using the Scrum framework for high performing teams. Over to Jen and Darnell. Jen first, I guess, ladies first.
Sure, thanks so much for having us. Thanks for that great introduction, Matt. I would kind of thinking tonight about what I was going to talk about, and Matt essentially hit on everything. So my real world experience very much mirrors what he has to say based on what's taught in the class. So I'm an almost 1 year out grad. I graduated in August of 2021. And I work as a project manager for a small company that sells jewelry. My background is in nonprofit, which is recreation and education based in a health specific arena. So one of the things I was looking to do when I joined the MBA program was jump industries. It's a very labor intensive, being a nonprofit and such is very labor intensive. It's a labor of love, and it's also a labor of time. And so I was ready for something new. And project management really spoke to my skill set. And then when I was sitting in this meeting not so long ago, Matt's presentation really spoke to me. So right now I have the honor of working with this small family company that when I first started working with them was really, on the fly, like, let's try this, let's try that, which is great, but there wasn't a lot of structure to that. And so you couldn't see the data lining up, what actually was working. And all of the things Matt taught in class, the risk management book, Risk Upfront still sits on my desk, both at home and in the office. I use it a lot. It's a really great way to just bring some structure to some organization that sometimes balks at that. And with that, we saw our company grow by 450% last year. So right in line with what Matt said and the growing, we're doing it faster with more, the same amount of people, if not less. We've had 2 sisters go out on maternity leave. And so there's, those of us picking up the slack there, and things just flow. And it's because of the things I learned in Matt's classes, and really helped us to see, where part of what you'll learn is where's there, I'm losing the word. Where's there a stoppage in your workflow, or where's the stoppage in your customer's pipeline, and tracking how all of that works to get to your customers. And we were able to do that. Was at class one night, came in the next morning and said, let's try this. Let's sit and figure out where we have work stoppages. And it helped us rearrange and readjust some timelines, and reduced a ton of stress on our production team, as well as our marketing team, which again are like half people. They're not, everybody's sharing jobs. So in this small space. So it was a really, really great program. And now as I'm looking, kind of have have felt like I've met my challenges there and I'm ready for something new. I'm planning to take the PMP later this fall to get certified. And as I'm preparing for that, it's been very, very smooth because of what I learned in Matt's courses. So I've got all those books out. They're still sitting on my desk. I don't know if you saw, I took a snapshot of what he's got up that are new things, so I can start digging into those as well. But all of those books have been amazing, really, really helpful and in real time. So that was a lot and very fast, but I will pass it off to Darnell.
Oh, for Jen and anybody else who's interested, the person on the right of this project management fast forward MBA, Eric Verza, gives Point Loma a great deal. He runs a project management professional certification. It's how to take a test kind of class. And he uses the same book we use in class, but he's cutting the price down. I think it's in the vicinity of $300. It's usually around $1,000.
Wow.
And just because Point Loma uses his text, he'll give us a break. So if you call Eric Verza and his information, I can get it for anybody that wants it. He'll help you out dollars wise for your prep.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Thanks. Hey, Darnell, how's your day?
My day is very busy. Hello all. It's good to see some familiar faces. And Randall, I heard you was at my station and I missed you that day you came in. So I'm Darnell. I am a chief broadcast engineer at Salem Media Group San Diego, and I took the project management concentration. And two things, the project management concentration and also a degree at Point Loma has really helped me advance in the role that I do at Salem Media Group. We at Salem don't follow project management per se in Salem, San Diego. We have a department that handles that. But the program that I did really helped me deal with stakeholders, because in the outside world, some of the stakeholders, they just want to do what they want to do and they don't follow systems. As a matter of fact, we have been working on a 5G repass, and it took almost a year for me to get that project done. So one of the things Matt said, project management is a team sport, and it really is. And I had to use a lot of skills from my classes to be able to bring that project to completion. And it was so very stressful, but I was able to get the stakeholders on the same page. The other thing, in conjunction with the project management concentration, the degree from Point Loma has helped me to implement what I call Jedi mind tricks, especially with a company that is conservative in spending. And recently, I just got the approval for a CapEx of $125,000 to install an auxiliary generator. But in order to do that, in submitting this package, I had to be able to articulate why it is I needed, do a cost benefit analysis, look at the revenue that we make, and when we lose power, how much is lost, and also use some variance with it. So I was able to get that approved. And during the pandemic, while everyone was tightening up.
Are there any questions that you might have in general from a program standpoint? I can answer those, or if you have specific ones about the concentration, maybe you can do the raise your hand and we can open it up. Or there are no questions. I noticed every year you guys just keep upping the presentation. So I think the first year one of you guys didn't have a PowerPoint or a slide deck, and now everybody's got slide decks, and every year they look better and better. So thank you, Matt and Randy and Frank and Randall, for putting great presentations together. And
You're dirting me. I didn't know I was supposed to bring PowerPoint slides the first year we did this.
Yeah, I don't think I told anybody to. It was just like, come talk about it. But then somebody did, I think, the first year, didn't they? And then everyone else was like, hey, I'm going to do that. So I like the competitive nature. You guys up it every year. And thank you especially to our alums for taking some time out to give your input on it. Oh, is there something in the chat? Oh, no. All right. Well, if there's no questions.
I just want to give a shout out to Matt. When I was in your class, I was talking to you about an idea that I had in creating like a studio to record stuff. Well, right now I'll show you my camera. This is my home studio. So want to let you know that it's almost completed, and I'm working on a business plan, trying to get a place out in town, and I'm building my own broadcast studio. So
Awesome.
Jamie, I'll be talking to you as well. And because that's what I do day in and day out. So thank you, Point Loma, for fueling the idea. And we'll be talking.
All right. Congratulations. And then Juliana's in the other room getting ready for her presentation. So if you guys want to join for that, the link is in the chat, and you can join us to hear about negotiating your salary. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Randall, for joining us all the way from Australia.
He's at the San Diego Zoo. He's right outside the serpent exhibit. I know where he's at.
My pleasure, Jamie. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Good to see everybody. I'm going to get myself a second cup of coffee, I think.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.